virality in the tech industry, Nokia's new Bothie phone, and farm bots are coming for your lettuce. All that and so much more coming up on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1834, recorded Thursday, August 17th, 2017.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/TNT and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit. Hello, welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we catch you up on the tech news you might have missed because you were sleeping or reading the regular news.
Or eating.
Working
out.
Yeah, other stuff. And now you're here.
Riding a bike.
Yeah. Now, well, maybe you're riding a bike while we're catching you up on the tech news. I hope so.
Megan, it's good to be back. And I'm Jason.
Yes. Oh, I'm Megan Maroney. I forgot that. Should we get to it?
Yeah.
Okay. More tech leaders are speaking out against President Donald Trump's response to the racist violence in Charlottesville, and they're also donating to some nonprofits. In an internal memo obtained by the Associated Press, Apple's Tim Cook says, quote, "I disagree with the president and others who believe that there is a moral equivalence between white supremacists and Nazis and those who oppose them by standing up for human rights." He also says he will give $1 million each to the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League, as well as matching employee donations to human rights groups. Meanwhile, Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg has transferred just under $100 million worth of her Facebook stock to her nonprofits and some other charities. Sandberg has also spoken out against the white supremacists. And if you want to donate, Apple's also making it easy using iTunes. You can donate to the Southern Poverty Law Center from there. And but a piece in TechCrunch says that tech is still losing the war against the white supremacists.
Because it all shifts. I mean, you know, they're doing, and we'll talk about here in a second, kind of what's going on behind the scenes to kind of shift these groups, or at least make their lives difficult on the internet. But I mean, it's practically impossible to prevent this from continuing in other ways in other corners of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. There's the Gab. It's sort of a alt-right or racist social network. They received $1 million via crowdfunding, and that's $500,000 if it was just in 5 days. So there are ways for you to speak out if you if this is what you believe. If you are racist, your voice is not silenced yet. You could give more money to the Gab or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we recommend not. So the tech fallout for tech companies and services post-Charlottesville has been like a row of dominoes kind of toppling over one by one over the last couple of days. Early on, of course, we talked about GoDaddy and Google and Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit. They're all working to remove hateful content that could potentially incite more violence, all based around their terms of service. Airbnb, WordPress, MailChimp also limited their services accordingly. Apple... You were talking a little bit about Apple. Apple cut off Apple Pay support for a number of sites selling Nazi clothing and memorabilia. Again, part of their terms of service, but they, kind of putting their foot down, as it were. Spotify even began removing hate bans from its catalog, so music that would qualify, that actually made a list that a school put out a couple of years ago of this is a list of hate bans. Remove those from the catalog. Yesterday, shortly before the show, the CEO of Cloudflare decided he had had enough and pulled the plug on DDoS protection for the Daily Stormer, a move that goes counter to the company's longtime policy of staying neutral when it comes to the content its services touch. CEO Matthew Prince said the tipping point for him was Daily Stormer saying Cloudflare is, quote, one of us. But he went on, I thought it was a really interesting read. He had a memo that was to his employees, and then they posted a blog on their site where he really points out, like, yes, I hit a tipping point. I decided, much, which is very different from their history as a company. They've taken a very hands-off approach to the content that passes through Cloudflare. He said, in this case, I've decided, like, this actually ticked me off that they were saying this. So I decided, all right, that's the red line in the sand, and I'm going to remove them. He says, I woke up in a bad mood and decided someone shouldn't be allowed on the internet. And he says, that's a dangerous power for any one person to wield. What do you think about that?
I completely agree that it is a dangerous power. This is a real sticky wicket. Like, you might agree with him taking off the Daily Stormer, but there might be in the future something that you want somebody who you want to be able to be on the web on the web, and then Matthew Prince or whoever else is in charge might be able to take it down. I mean, it's more nuanced than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we have to say, I haven't spoken to him, but we have to think that he was influenced not just by waking up and deciding. I mean, that's when he actually pushed the button.
Right.
But before that, I'm sure he was. I mean, they were the last holdout. They were the one, and they were getting a lot of bad press. A lot of people were complaining. And so there had to have, all the people who stood up and said, you know what, this isn't okay. And they also had power in that. So that's one lesson we can learn. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Like in 2009, there was a big uproar because when Google took down the photo of Michelle Obama, it was like someone had posted a racist photo of Michelle Obama, and then other racists were making it appear very high in search results, and everyone was tagging it, and Google went in and removed it. And a lot of people were angry about that. They weren't racist. They didn't believe that it was, that they didn't want to see that picture of Michelle Obama. But at the same time, they said you shouldn't be able to just remove things from the internet when you decide that they shouldn't be there. But where do we draw the line? And Google's a private company. Cloudflare is a private company. Right. GoDaddy is a private company. They're all private companies. But it gets down to the question of all of us fighting for net neutrality, who say the internet we want it to be a utility. The same thing, would you turn the power off? Does the Daily Stormer, they're the place that they meet, if they do have a place where they meet together in physical space, like do we also take, pull their power and all their other utilities?
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, I think a part of what this is right now, what we're realizing is that there are certain types of content that people feel absolutely justified and okay from a moral and ethical standpoint for removing and making it, let's say impossible to get to. Child pornography would be one of those things. There's a lot of, there are very specific types of content that we feel okay with that, with reaching that moral decision. And maybe what's happening right now, what we're seeing is suddenly, like I said, falling like a bunch of dominoes, because before this, that content was still there. And it was still very hateful, but it took an event like Charlottesville to maybe open tech CEOs' eyes to the damage that content like that can do. And now they're all kind of following each other in this race to remove that content or make it difficult. Maybe we're realizing that type of content also falls into a similar category with some of those other prohibited types of content. But man, it's just like you said, it's a sticky wicket. I like that.
Yeah.
Slippery slope, however you want to put it. The thing that I get kind of hung up on is that absolutely I agree with the message, sending the message that white supremacy and racist hate and sites that that tailor to that. Like, I don't agree with that message. I don't agree that that's okay to hate based on those terms and everything. So, but at the same time, removing content like this is something that we have said we don't want the government to have the power to do. Hence, all of the discussions we've had about net neutrality and making sure that the government can't get in there and decide what we see and what we don't, because then it becomes a propaganda arm and all that kind of stuff. So, like, where do we draw the line then? Are we okay with it when it's a CEO making that decision versus the government? And why does that make it different? And what is the long-term ramification of that? Not that I agree with white supremacists in this case, but I do think that it sets a precedent. And, what is 5 years down the line as a result of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for now I'm okay with CEOs making this decision, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's not just tech CEOs. I mean, this isn't necessarily. I'm wavering a little bit from the tech angle, but everyone knows that the CEO of Merck also stepped aside from the president's business council and said this isn't okay, and it's sort of similar to what Google and people have been arguing that Google and GoDaddy, they're just trying to get press out of this, or they're trying to avoid bad press, but for example, with Merck, I think you're seeing Merck and probably Google and Apple seeing this more as really morality and not about their bottom line. And I heard this on the news this morning, because Merck's biggest client, like the biggest drug client for Merck, is the U.S. government. So he's really, like, by stepping off of the Donald Trump's business council, he's really saying, well, I don't support you, even though it's not about the bottom line. I guess that's my point. And I do think, we don't know, we haven't talked to any of these CEOs. And yes, it's probably partly about the bottom line, but I think more and more it's becoming a moral issue. It's not about whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. It's more about whether you believe that this kind of hate based on skin color or religion is okay or not,
and hosting content that tailors to that and could potentially incite violence, which is what a lot of this is about. Remove it because it could potentially incite violence, and defining that is, I think, the important part in all of this. We'll see what happens.
Well, if you've ever wanted to wander around inside a stranger's home, now you can with Google Earth. Today, Google Earth updated its This is Home feature with new traditional and indigenous home walkthroughs all over the world. So you can walk in someone else's shoes for a while, or sit on a bench of a Nepalese Sherpa. You can crouch in the corner of Inuit igloos. You can look at people's homes, all in several places all over the globe, and they can show you how others have adapted to their own varying landscapes. And Google says the feature is also designed to digitally preserve different cultures who are facing economic, environmental, and population pressures. So this is on the web and also on iOS and Android in the Google app. And I recommend spending some time with it, especially if you're feeling a little bit anxious about the world today. It makes you, I don't know, it just lets you feel like you can look at someone else's house.
Well, I think it's a very interesting perspective, just a cool way to examine different cultures, right? Like everyone has a certain idea, a vision of what home means to them and the surroundings that they're used to. Like, on one hand, it's really kind of strange because you're dropping in some of these things and the people are there. I mean, obviously it's not a live feed, but like, I wonder how the negotiations happen on the back end to be like, hey, we're a huge, mega corporation from the United States. Can we bring this camera into your home and permanently kind of violate your personal space for the enjoyment of people all around the world? Are you okay with this? Hopefully they understood that when they said yes. Like, I don't know how that negotiation was made behind the scenes.
Well, hopefully they showed a picture of their house inside.
Yeah. It was like a little. We give you our picture of your home and vice versa. But at the same time, it's just really, I think it's fascinating to realize that what we take for granted as far as like what makes us comfortable and what we are used to living on a daily basis with, and how that is so incredibly different for everyone. And I don't know, it's kind of comforting to virtually go into some of these places and see how it's totally and completely different, but then at the same time I could completely understand how that would be a very comfortable place to live. It's it doesn't match necessarily my daily experience, but I enjoy the shifted perspective.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't spend as much time on Twitter if you lived in one of these places.
That would be nice.
I thought what was interesting about this is when you first looked at Google Street View, what was the first thing that you looked at?
See, I did some thinking around that, and I honestly, I couldn't tell you specifically exactly what I looked up. I probably either, if I remember correctly, when I first heard about it, because I was living in San Francisco at the time, I probably went back to Boise, where I'm from, and looked up my house, because I think that's one of the first things you did was like, well, is my house in there? I probably looked up my place or whatever. As far as like big place, I probably went to something obvious like the Eiffel Tower, or something like that.
I definitely looked at my house. I first looked at my current house, then I looked at like various houses that I lived in the past. Do you remember there was I think it was an Arcade Fire video where you could put in your address of the home you grew up in, and it would use Google Street View. This was, I don't know, it was like 2006 maybe, and you put in, and it made the video based on the Google Street View of
I didn't even
your
hear
house.
about that.
It was amazing. I can't be the only one who remembers that. Burke, do you remember it? Okay. It was your Arcade Fire song Neighborhood, and you could put in your address, and then it would be like a kid running in your home. It was
2010.
2010. Okay,
it was
sorry,
2010.
I was 5 years old. But
and it was an early-ish showcase of what Google was doing with HTML5. By the way.
It was amazing.
I did not even hear about that. That is really interesting. It's a good song, by the way. I like that song, too.
We've never liked the same music before. That's interesting.
We finally got
Arcade
there,
Fire
Megan.
is the Venn diagram.
I know, right? They're really good in concert, too. You should go see it live if you have the chance. We now know what a top-of-the-line Android phone bearing Nokia's name looks like. HMD Global unveiled the Nokia 8. It's a 5.3-inch smartphone with the top-of-the-line Snapdragon 835 processor inside, 4 gigs of RAM, I think 64 gigs of storage, 13-megapixel dual camera array, which they're all kind of doing at this point, and a new camera mode with a name that might give you nightmares, Bothie. Bothie mode will combine the front and rear cameras into a single image simultaneously, so you can get it both sides. Bothie, selfie, all like in a horrible terminology sandwich.
No,
there you go.
Which,
by the way, that feature is not like this is not. It's not like it hasn't been done before. Galaxy phones have done this, I think, since the S5. You can do dual camera mode and everything. I don't know who. Yeah, it would look something like this. If Megan was standing in front of me and the phone was right there, Megan's like, "Go away." I don't know why you'd use it, but hey, there you go. Cool.
So they didn't invent this. There's Android phones that you can see both.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the Galaxy S series. I think they started it with the S5. There might have even been other phones that you could do it. I don't know if it's the full screen effect that Nokia is doing here, though, or that HMD is doing here. On the S series, the Galaxy series, it's like you've got the rear-facing camera is the full screen, and then you've got a little box that you can position anywhere in the view that is your front-facing camera. So it's like your reaction camera, like, oh, that's a really fast roller coaster. Oh, if anyone really needed to see you reacting to what you're recording.
Yeah, Bothie.
Bothie.
I mean, it could have been Wee-E.
Wee-E?
Wee-E or Ussy. I like the Ussy. Ussy.
I just,
you could
why,
do 360.
Why E-E it?
Why E?
Why E it?
I don't know. But, I mean, it's true. I remember very clearly when the word selfie was ridiculous, and I was like, no one's ever going to use that word.
And now, unfortunately, we do. It also captures 360-degree audio, not video. Burke was asking if both cameras could be combined to do 360-degree, and I don't think that would work because they're not fisheye lenses. But, Burke has faith in HMD, I suppose. And bezels straight out of last year. I mean, those are some bezels on the top and bottom, not like the infinity screen that we're so used to seeing now.
I know. Bezels. What are bezels?
What are bezels? Where we're going, we don't need any more bezels. And yeah, it's releasing in Europe in September for €599. It's around $705 US. It's unclear whether it will come to the US, but the Nokia 6 did. And since they're touting this as their premium kind of like top of the line smartphone, I'd be really surprised if it didn't eventually. But there you go.
Well, after the break, Kerry Davis is here to talk about lettuce automation. But first, let's take a minute to thank Ring Video Doorbell, the sponsor of this episode. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. Today, over 1 million people use the amazing Ring Video Doorbell to help protect their homes. Ring knows that home security begins at the front door, but it doesn't end there. That's why they're extending the same level of security to the rest of your home with the Ring Floodlight Cam. Just like Ring's video doorbell, Floodlight Cam is a motion-activated camera and a floodlight that connects to your phone. It has HD video and two-way audio, and that way, as soon as someone that you don't want, or a monster, or a zombie, or a deer, or a dragon, as soon as any of those things, the unwanted things, steps onto your property, then you know. It lets you know right on your phone. And then you can see and speak to that visitor. You could speak to that zombie or the dinosaur or the person that you don't want. Or maybe it's someone that you do want. Maybe it's someone you like and you're just like, I need to get ready. I'm still just got out of the shower. I'm in a towel. Hold on. It doesn't have to always be scary. It could be just helpful. You can see and speak to visitors, even set off an alarm right from your phone. With Ring's Floodlight Cam, when things go bump in the night, you will immediately know whether it's a zombie or a dragon or a person that you want to see or not. Whether you're home or away, the Ring Floodlight Cam lets you keep an eye on your home. Ring Floodlight Cams offer the ultimate in home security with high visibility floodlights and a powerful HD camera that puts security in your hands. And that was why the Wall Street Journal named it Best of CES 2017. Monitor every corner of your property with a Ring of Security kit. All kits include a Ring video doorbell and your choice of either 1, 2, or 3 floodlight cams. Connect your Ring video doorbell with your favorite smart locks and hubs for added convenience, monitoring, and security. Make all the things smart. With Ring, you're always home. Save up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit when you go to ring.com/TNT. That's ring.com/TNT. Don't forget to add that TNT. That way they know that we sent you to them, and we thank Ring for their support. The future of farming might be in the capable metal hands of robots. Here to talk about her experience with farm bots is Kerry Davis from Engadget's The Future IRL. Welcome back to the show, Kerry.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
Now, first of all, do you say IRL or do you say the future in real life on your show?
I say IRL, and then I have to explain to everyone what that means. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for knowing.
Well, let's first get first things first. Are you talking about actual robots or farmers like that wear little hats, or are we talking about farming machinery?
I wish it were the first. Let's make that happen. I would do that story 1,000 times. No, sadly. But I would love it. Yeah, so farming machinery has come a really long way. And interestingly enough, especially my stepdad's a farmer, I grew up helping farm, is that it's not sort of the big equipment makers like Case or John Deere or any of those sort of leading the way, although they're trying to catch up. It's kind of like Tesla. It's these smaller, still kind of unknown companies known in this space, but not known to a wider audience, that are really sort of doing interesting things.
So you traveled to Salinas for this story, Salinas, California, that we all know if we read any John Steinbeck. Why Salinas?
Salinas is the lettuce capital of the world. They make most of the lettuce there. I'm harvesting some. See, I'm a total farmer, guys. They make lettuce, spinach, and any of those sorts of things are mostly made in Salinas. And I went there for a few reasons. One thing I couldn't get into in the piece, and which seems silly because it's 10 minutes long, basically, but Taylor Farms, which is huge in Salinas, they even have their own lettuce harvesting bot. So it's all of these different machines are sort of designed to really take people out of it. And you would say maybe on the forefront, just looking at it, that this means that people might not have jobs, right? Because it's a lot of sort of labor intensive stuff, harvesting or otherwise working with this sort of thing. But they would tell you, a lot of the bigger sort of equipment makers and whatnot, that there aren't enough farm workers, that there's been a farm labor shortage for a while. And especially with Trump coming into office, it's been even more steep. So I didn't talk about that so much, but basically all the technology that's sort of going to help fill that gap. And that is, autonomous harvesting vehicles or autonomous machinery to just hoe lettuce weeds, which is a big deal. That's what you're seeing on your screen right now. Yeah, I can tell you more about that company if you like.
Well, I mean, what I'm curious about, which is you're kind of touching on here, is the job skill requirements. Like obviously we've got the traditional, farm work, the skills of a traditional farmer, and everybody going out there and doing the labor themselves, but now you've got, let's say, in the farm of the future, you've got robots everywhere kind of doing all this in an automated sort of way, and they're smart because they're running AI and they're doing all of this object matching and everything like that. That shifts the requirements of the workers themselves as far as their particular skills, right?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what everyone told me, is that, there will still be farm workers, but they won't be maybe the unskilled worker variety. It's going to take, and there will still be farmers, but they will more be managing machines and sort of getting to think about sort of the creative problems that they might have instead of having to do all of the actual labor. And that is good for many reasons. We're going to have a population boom by 2050. It'll be almost 10 million people in the world. And family-owned farms and farmers are declining, especially in the U.S. There aren't enough people that want to stay on farms, right? Everyone's moving to the city. So they would tell you, the people I spoke with, that filling that gap with sort of autonomous machinery is the only way we're going to be able to feed people in the future in terms of the things we're used to eating now. So I found that really interesting, too. I know I went into it very worried about existing sort of farm workers, and I came out of it. Everyone was saying it wasn't a big deal. So I was like, okay, I guess it's not a big deal. And just got to focus on the tech itself, which is really interesting.
Well, and the interview, one of the interviews, the guy at the company was calling it, part of the new collar economy, which you've heard a lot. But did they talk at all about training? Because it's different. It's a very different job to be, harvesting lettuce than it is to writing code for a farm bot.
I don't think that's going to be the person writing the code. No, they didn't talk much about training. Maybe I sort of accepted everybody's reasoning of why it wasn't a concern too easily, right? Because all the other sort of declines in other jobs would show us that there will be some people left behind. But yeah, I don't think it will be every farm. And that's one of the big takeaways from the piece. So we ended it on this little sort of specialty farm in Half Moon Bay that was lovely. And they only actually work, they have 300 acres, but they only work a few of them. And that's enough to sort of keep it going, because everything in California especially the big thing is specialty crops. So you need people still to do those things unless you have a monocrop and, you're a huge farm maker. Here, it's something like 400 different crops on average in the state. So they need people to actually be sort of harvesting over here and then doing something over here. And you can't have one machine address all of those different issues. So it will still be a lot of labor. The thing that I really focused on in the piece was with Blue River Technology, and it's a robotics company. It was really interesting people. They basically got started to make an autonomous lawnmower, which I think most people would love. And then they realized there was this sort of easy thing they could do first. And I was calling it easy. I'm sure it's not easy. But they could start with lettuce hoeing or but basically thinning. It's called lettuce thinning. Because of the germination, you can never tell how many lettuce plants will actually become true lettuces. So everybody, overplants lettuce. And then when they come up, you have to apparently thin them out to 10 inches apart, because otherwise they'll get funky or kill each other, and there are lettuce wars happening. So it's this step that they usually hire people to go out and do lettuce thinning. And it's a lot of labor. It takes a long time to hoe all of these little, things. So they made a machine that goes out and uses AI and can, knows distance and can just sort of spray a little herbicide on the ones that should die. And then every 10 inches, there's a little lettuce plant. So that was the first one a few years ago. And they got their start in Salinas. So that's another reason we went there. And what they're doing now blew my mind, because my stepdad's a farmer. Rather than right now, when people need to spray a field, they'll spray the entire thing with herbicide or pesticide. Or if you've seen the planes coming low and then the spray, there's all kinds of things that health concerns, environmental concerns, all of these things come into play when you talk about crop spraying. So their new machine it has AI and why am I blanking? Oh man, machine learning. There it is. Thank you. They've taught their program so far 1 million photos of weed and cotton plants, and they'll continue to teach it another 9 million is the plan. But they can just drag it over, a row of cotton. They've just started testing it this summer. And it knows the difference between a cotton plant and a weed. And so it'll look at the weed and only spray the weed with an herbicide, which is huge. In the piece, the CEO talks about how that'll save, just on average, an average sized farmer, something like maybe if you spend about $100,000 on herbicide alone, instead with this machine, you would spend only $10,000. So it's a huge cost savings. It's good for the environment. It's amazing that this hasn't been done before, and they have more plans for it in the future.
Yeah, it's a value add for the people buying their produce and their vegetables on the other side too, because people want it as pristine. You know, there's a big movement obviously around organic farming and everything. People are very aware of what touches their food before their food, you know, it gets delivered to their home. And I think what fascinated me a lot about your piece is kind of the applications of AI and object recognition, essentially. Like when I think about the way that automation has been done before in the farms, you know, a lot of it comes down to kind of this analysis of the size of whatever it is, be it the apple or whatever. But when you get into the world of object recognition, you can take some of that obscurity that could come along with the old way of automating it and make it really super smart and super effective.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add.
All right.
You said it beautifully.
Well, what about TrackMap? You talked to them. It looked like you were getting to play a video game. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that was Colin from TrackMap. He had a charming New Zealand accent. He is one of the he's in charge of one of the companies that was brought into the Western Growers Association's. They have this tech startup, the Innovation and Technology Center. And he was brought in really to get planted in the U.S. because he's already firmly established in New Zealand. And his program is sort of just a cloud and hardware-based system where, say you have a lot of fields, you're a farmer with a ton of fields and a lot of money, and you have a lot of employees on your field because you're rich, or on your farm because you're rich. So you can set up the system where you tell them exactly which field to go out to, because it can get confusing, right? Which field, and they'll say, oh yeah, I got that field on that corner. Yeah, no problem. I sprayed that field. And then you might find out later that they didn't actually get it. So this is very simple, checking up on your employees that they actually treated the right field. And the bummer of that behind the scenes info, we were supposed to go out on a field with Colin that day. And then the company, a very large, I'll just say wine company, backed out. They wouldn't allow us at the last minute. So I got to do the demo of what you actually do when you drive a tractor, but I was supposed to be in a tractor. So that was a bummer.
Dang
Sad.
it. Sad. Might there be a day where robots are just doing all of our farm work for us? Like literally we just put the robots to work, you know, from seed to harvest, they take care of it. I mean, I think as technology gets infused in this industry, it's certainly a possibility, right?
I think so. One of the things that I was really interested in is that as of now, and literally I think it's about to change in a few months, there is no true autonomous, on a larger scale, autonomous tractor or whatever. They've all been using GPS and satellite technology for years, I think something like 20 or so years, where in a tractor, and I've done this actually, you can drive and set the thing and then it steers for you because it knows exactly where you're going. But a human still has to turn around at the end of the row. So they're so close. I have a feeling, with a wink, something might be coming soon. So yeah, I mean, that would be the dream, right? And it certainly won't be, I don't know, and then I guess I'm not a farmer, I can't say. I think long-term, Jason, that's exactly what's going to happen, at least for if everything's running right. So my stepdad, the farmer, would tell you something always breaks down and somebody has to fix it.
That's true. That's a good point.
So were you one of those children of farmers that were encouraged to take over the family farm and then disappointed your family by going into technology?
I don't think so. I think they never thought that I would want to do that, but I used to help with the harvest, and that's so much fun. If anyone has ever done that before, even if you hear of a third cousin who might need some help, just volunteer. It's so much fun to help with harvest in the fall.
Kerry, thanks so much, as always, for joining us. Kerry is a producer and a host of Engadget's video shows, including The Future IRL, which stands for In Real Life, and Engadget Today. And she is Ms. Kerry D on Twitter. Thanks for coming on.
Nailed it. Of course. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kerry. Have a good night. All right, feedback time. Thanks to Michael on Twitter and actually so many others who pointed out something that I think we missed yesterday, that the spider robot on last night's show is not actually a spider because it only has 6 legs. Spiders, of course, have 8 legs. Spiders are not insects. They are arachnids. And as such, eight legs, arachnids. There you go. Hey, you know, they're just spiders. I'm always called into the room to squish them or throw them outside. What can I say?
Well, I don't know. That was kind of a sorry, not sorry. I'm really sorry. I apologize if I offended anyone, especially spiders.
Yeah, actually, I should apologize to spiders because I don't want them seeking me down after the fact because they're angry at me.
Well, TNT's fan of the day is Remy Oxenfans on Twitter, who sent these 2 pictures saying, watching TNT from my classy stand-up desk. Keep up the great work, team. There's one photo, and then the other.
Oh, got both of us in there.
I love my standing desk. Although, as you pointed out, last few days, I've been sitting in it.
Yeah, you've been sitting.
You know, I can stand or sit. I just want to give sitting an option.
It goes in both directions.
Yes. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT, or show us your standing desk or your sitting desk, or wherever you watch, on a tractor, wherever. Record a video, take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT. We'll find it.
We will. Thanks to Reader7 in the TNT subreddit for this one. Toyota has acquired a patent for cloaking technology that could someday appear in its vehicles. No, this doesn't mean that the vehicle will be invisible to the naked eye, as safe as that may sound, but it's intended to aid in driver visibility when applied to A-pillars inside the vehicle. The technology utilizes mirrors that bend invisible light, resulting in a transparent pillar. The A-pillar, by the way, are those vertical strips of steel that separate the front windshield from the side windows, or the door, rather. So it's kind of like you're looking out the windshield and you've got those little bars, you know, before you get to the, kind of the side windows. And, you know, that's blocking your view, essentially. Those are 2 points that are potentially blind spots. So making them somewhat transparent, somewhat see-through would actually be a big deal, I think.
Yeah, I had never given a single thought to the A-pillar until I read this story.
We're so used to them, I suppose.
Yeah, and I thought, well, why can't it just be see-through? And then Padre said, you know, because it has to hold you up when you roll over.
Crumple. It's a crumple zone if it's not a strong steel. Yeah.
But, you know, I'm rooting for the self-driving car. So, sure, make this until a robot is driving my car.
I'm rooting for the entirely transparent car that when you look at like on the road, you just see someone sitting apparently in midair going down the road. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just the invisibility cloak for people also.
I don't know if I want that. I mean, that's neat, but I don't. But then you just don't
be invisible.
Well, I wouldn't want somebody to be invisible around me.
Oh.
And not know that somebody's there, and always wonder if somebody's. Yeah. See, I'm like Marty McFly right now.
You are. It's all me.
All right, so Toyota, work on that and get back to us. TNT records live every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail, 260-TNT-SHOW, and find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
And find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv. I am also at Megan Maroney on Twitter. And one thing I've forgotten to tell you is that I am on a 10-week digital cleanse, hashtag digital cleanse, on the new screensavers. So go to the new screensavers, and there I am cleansing.
You're totally cleansing right there.
I am.
But wait, you're using your phone.
I am cleansing by removing the notifications from my phone. This isn't about giving up technology. I would not do that to you. I'm not a monster. This is about making your, it's like cleaning out your system a bit. So that's why I borrowed your Galaxy S8, and you taught me about some launchers. We're going to clean up your apps next week. This week is Inbox Zero. So subscribe to the screensavers and, cleanse with me. Hashtag digital cleanse. I love to say hashtag anything.
Hashtag anything. Yeah, it's very hot right now. I think I digitally cleanse because I review a lot of phones, and every time I have to start at square one with the phone. But then I always go back to my old one, and I realize, man, it's slow because there's so much stuff on here. So I could really learn a few things from you.
Hashtag digital cleanse.
Okay, I'll add that as a column in my tweet deck. I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter if you want to show me how you are digitally cleansing things, cleaning things, whatever. Thanks to our technical director, so-and-so. That would be Kevin. Thanks to some other guy for helping out here in the studio. That would be Burke. And thanks to that other guy for editing the show. That would also be Kevin. And thanks to whoever you are for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.